Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. So today I am going to be doing a business orientated video. So for most of you, you know that I have worked for myself since 2016, so over 5 years, and I ran a yoga studio in Dublin. I did this with little to no money. I got a very small loan and started from scratch. I have definitely learned a lot of things. My business has completely changed in the last year, and I would like to share just some of the big mistakes I made, some of the mistakes that I am, or the mindsets, the unhealthy mindsets that I am trying to train myself to kind of get out of. And hopefully in sharing them, we could maybe discuss them, or it might just alert you to maybe something that isn't serving you, or a negative kind of attitude or mindset that you might have had that you might be encouraged to change as well, or just seeing things in a different light or from a different perspective. It might help you to make better choices and not make the mistakes that I made, because there were plenty of them, let me tell you. So I just have my laptop here because I've taken a lot of notes and I want to stay with the notes and with the bullet points that I have made. So I've stuck to 5 main mistakes. So I'm going to get to the first one, which is the mistake I made and still make to this day, is that I often let my desire for money or my goal be orientated by status rather than wealth. So in wanting to make money is nothing to be ashamed of. It should never make you guilty. If money is one of your goals, if you want a lot of money, then that is definitely a really good and obviously authentic goal to have. But the mistake that I made was that anytime I had money, I would spend it. So it definitely, for me, having money in the bank represented a lifestyle, and it represented an achievement, and it represented for me kind of achieving my goal and getting to the finish line, which is definitely not what it means. Because when you have money, you have to reinvest it to create wealth. So having status is something that I definitely had a goal of, and it ended up that it was pretty empty, because status is all about how people perceive you and wanting to have money so that you can spend it on things that make you look like you have achieved your goals or that you have been a success. Wealth is much more of a lacking in ego goal. It means that you will have a much more fulfilled life. It means that you'll be comfortable. It means that you will have not only wealth in money, but wealth in a healthy business, a healthy work-life balance. It means that you have the freedom to go on holidays or take breaks when you need. But being wealthy is a long-term goal. It is something that you have to consistently work at. And that is where status will suck your basically your money dry, or your wealth dry. So I actually got to a point where I was making good money in the studio, and I was so excited by kind of achieving my goal or doing well that I stepped back big time from teaching. So I got to a stage where the studio was making good money, so I thought I can afford to teach less. I taught way less, and as a result I had to pay obviously contractors or other teachers to work the classes I had been working at, and that inevitably meant that the business had less money, because my outgoings were more, which inevitably ended up where I was anxious about money. It actually got so bad to the point where I was being so stubborn that I couldn't even see clearly that if I was seeing that if I went back to take on my classes again, that I was letting go of that status of money. I was letting go of the idea that I had the freedom to not work as much, when actually that choice was taking away my freedom of having money in the bank and having that insurance for myself and that money to fall back on. So I ended up going to Connor, my fiance, and really anxious about money, and actually was considering giving up the studio and going to work like in Salesforce, which I didn't even know what Salesforce was. I was like, I've heard that loads of people make a lot of money in Salesforce, that some of the people I know that work in there are not like uber smart or anything. So I was like, maybe I could work in Salesforce. What do you think, Connor? And he was like, yeah, you could work in Salesforce, you'd be good at it. He was like, but you would fucking hate it. You would be taking away all of your freedom. You wouldn't work for yourself. You wouldn't be able to take a Friday off work and go on a long weekend. You wouldn't be able to work from Greece. All of the things that you love and that may actually make you happy would be gone. So you're willing to have status over the wealth of freedom. So really, when you kind of weigh up things and you see what wealth and status is, and you prioritize the things that actually give you joy and happiness, you see that sacrifices aren't actually sacrifices. They are just necessities in giving you the freedom to have that wealth. You begin to realize as well that the sacrifices that you think, as in for B, going back to teach more, it actually was just a necessity that becomes quite attractive when you weigh up the alternative of losing all the things that you love. So really taking time just to prioritize your goals, to know that status is really just an empty goal, money and wealth is not. Just be aware of that hole that you can definitely slip into when it comes to status. Okay, mistake number 2. Mistake number 2 is the fact that I am terrified of goals. So basically, ever since I've known Connor, he has been obsessed with goals and setting goals and talking about goals and talking about what he's gonna do. And for me, that's always just really scared me, because I always have felt that when I have big goals, it just makes it so much more obvious to me how far I am away from those goals. So it's really important not to be scared of goals, because if we don't have goals, if we don't work toward things, we're going to remain stuck and we're never going to move forward, and we're never going to realize our full potential. So basically, in order to achieve big goals, you have to break it down into bite-sized pieces. So really important that, let's say your goal is to earn 100 grand a year, you have to break it down into what currently what is your salary currently, where is your salary coming from if you work for yourself, how can you make money in other areas, how can you boost the income of one area, which area is your biggest money maker, and how can you double down on that in order to make more. But no big goal is going to be achieved if you don't break it down. So that is one of the most important things that I've learned, is to set goals, to dream big, but to start from where you are and not focus on the space between you and the goal. Focus on what you can do today, in the next week, or maybe in the next month, in order to progress toward that goal. But really important not to allow the maybe fear of failing or the fear of not reaching your goal to stop you in your tracks completely. Mistake number 3 is comparing on social media. And I know this is like a bit of a boring one and a really obvious one, because yes, we all compare ourselves, and yes, it's something that as humans we're never gonna not do. But I do feel that it's really important to remind yourself that while you're on social media, you can get carried away with focusing on the things that you have not done and the things that other people are currently now achieving. that might not be exactly where you are, and it also makes you focus on the things that you haven't rather than the things that you have. So really important, while staying focused on today, while staying focused on what you can do today in order to improve tomorrow, that you learn from the mistakes that you've done, and that you also remember what you have achieved, because that is what is going to get you up and is going to remind you that you have the strength to get up tomorrow and to give it your all, and to let your failures be lessons, and let them be reminders that failure is not the worst thing that can happen. You're still alive, it didn't kill you. And also to remember that, you know, just because you're not achieving the goals that other people are achieving doesn't take away from the goals that you have achieved. Also really important that while we're on that comparing mindset, that you have to remember that sometimes when you're on social media and you are scrolling through somebody's day and they are in full power, kick-ass mode, and you're literally, I don't know, just over your period, or you are just after working kind of around the clock on a project for like 2 weeks, and you are deadbeat, and then now you're looking at this person who has already taken taken a holiday, or is just back into having a deadline and has to work their ass off. It's not a good place to be. It's a waste of time comparing yourself to that person who's in work mode while you are in that very much needed rest mode, and vice versa. If you're in that power mode after coming back from a really nice holiday, and you're seeing somebody who's in that kind of restorative rest and rejuvenate mode, it can slow you down. It can kind of make you feel, oh, maybe I do need a little bit of a chill day. And it's really important to kind of stick to your schedule and to use the energy while it's there. So don't allow that comparing on social media to firstly take away from the achievements and the possibilities that are ahead of you, and also don't allow it to affect accepting exactly where you are today, and the mood and the mode and all of that. Yeah, it's just a total waste of time. So moving on to mistake number 4. Mistake number 4 is that I often, and still, it's something I'm trying to get myself out of, Molly, that I see my past failures as almost a prediction or a prophecy for my future. And past failures are in the past. They are in the past for a reason. They do not have to be part of today. The only thing that you should be using your past failures for today or tomorrow is lessons to be learned and improvements to make and paths to choose. So failures before are ways to learn what not to do again. Failures before are not a reflection of who you are. They are a reflection of circumstances, of choices you made back then, because you were probably a different person with different needs and different goals. But failures and circumstances and things that have happened to you, or outcomes that have occurred, are not a Bible to live by. Okay, so your past self is not something that you have to be ashamed of. It's not something that you have to torture yourself for now. You don't have to make up for the fact that you used to be lazy or that you used to not give a shit. Today is a time to focus on tomorrow and what you want, and it really is just such a blessing to realize this, because I have noticed it in people I know, in myself, that, you know, because you weren't sporty in your childhood means that you'll never be sporty, because you haven't had money until now, it means that you'll never have money. These things, the more you focus on them, the more they do become prophecies, and they'll become self-fulfilling prophecies, where you continuously say that I will never make money, so why even bother trying? You won't see opportunities because you don't think you're able for them, because your past self wasn't able for them. So just so important not to focus on past failures and allow them to dictate your choices today. So last but not least is my mistake number 5, which is something I did quite a lot, was take risks that weren't calculated. So uncalculated risks, risks are a really healthy thing to have in business. You have to take risks to have a successful business, in my opinion. You have to be able to trust your gut, and you have to leap into the unknown. But there are smart ways to take risks. So if you have a family and you are currently living in a 4-bedroom house, and you have a mortgage and you have a family to feed, and you hate your job, and you decide to just pack up your job and with no idea of what you're going to start or what you want to even do, that is not a calculated risk. Dipping your toe in courses online at nighttime and getting a business plan in place and believing in your business and having tested your idea, like for example Nobó chocolate, who are an Irish business. They recently were on my fiance's podcast, Irish Business Builders, and they discussed that they put basically all of their life savings into their business, but they had trialed their recipe, they had trialed their concept in farmers markets, which is a dairy-free ice or chocolate and ice cream, and it was super popular. They had queues at the door, and they had tested their idea before they actually invested all of their life savings and their time and their careers into this idea. So that is a calculated risk. Something for me, like a mistake, I will give an example of a mistake that I made, an uncalculated risk that I made. That when I went last year, I closed my studio obviously for COVID, but then I realized that I absolutely adored teaching all online. It was working out so well for me, so I decided to create an online membership. At the time, I had moved basically all of my clients from my physical yoga studio in Dublin online. I had also attracted loads of other people that had been to retreats of mine and who had maybe just come through Dublin but weren't able to come to the studio anymore because they had left. I also had my corporate clients, so they were corporate businesses in Dublin that I used to go to. They also all moved online. At the time, it was all live, so I had a really busy live schedule, and it was really successful. It was making me a lot of money. I then decided that I wanted to stay permanently online. I wanted to close my physical studio because it was I had been doing it for about 3 or 4 months, and it was tested, it was working, it was making good money. But I changed one little thing. I let go of the live classes because personally I wanted to be able to work whenever I wanted. I wanted to film and record a class and be able to put it onto my membership and not have to be at a certain place at a certain time. Now that's fine, but it wasn't a calculated risk because I hadn't trialed it really. So instead of, what would have been a calculated risk is trying out the idea for my membership but keeping my live corporates. So what I did was, my corporates were a massive income for me. I gave up the live classes, and even though I knew that they were not keen on just having this membership for their staff where I wasn't actually physically there live on screen, that I was just letting them pay for this online membership of recorded classes. I knew that the corporates were just not really keen on the live classes, and even though I knew that, and even though I thought, I think I'm actually going to lose them, I took the risk and I lost them, and I lost all of my income that went with it. That was a really stupid mistake, and it was a stupid thing to do. I was far too eager to get my end goal, which was to be completely free. But in doing that, I took a risk, and it didn't pay off. Basically, there was no payoff for that risk. I should have really just kept my my corporate clients and stuck it out, and you know, for a few hours a week of having to be at a certain place at a certain time, that was a sacrifice I should have made in order, like coming back to the first point, that status that I was kind of going for, of being kind of a digital nomad and being completely free and earning lots of money while not really having to be anywhere at a certain time. That's maybe something that you get after working your balls off, like let's say the head of Lululemon or whatever, Patagonia, and retiring at 50. That's a goal for when you're like 50 or 60, not a goal for when you've literally just done this online membership for like 3 months and you already want to be kind of this you know, multi-millionaire who doesn't really have to, kind of works when she wants to. Like, it's just totally unrealistic. So firstly, going back to that first mistake, there was a little bit of status that came into play, and ego that came into play there, and just being greedy, and knowing that it was a really big risk and losing all that money, but just kind of overlooking that and not making the smart choice, and making the necessity to pay my bills. So yeah, basically, when you're going to take risks in business, it is so important, and that is why I have my business now, that I absolutely adore. My online yoga membership, I wouldn't change it for the world. It pays my bills, but I definitely regret making that silly decision of letting go of such a good money maker in those corporate classes, and having that wealth to be able to reinvest in my business and to reinvest in my career and my life and my future. So yeah, I won't waffle on too much more about that, but they are basically my 5 biggest mistakes that I have made so far in my business and in running a business. I am continuously learning. I am continuously trying to break habits and mindsets, and yeah, I hope that you found this video interesting. I hope that it helps you in some way. I really tried to be as honest as I could and to let you in on my weaknesses, because it's really important to know your weaknesses. If you're not able to acknowledge them, it's really difficult to ever change them. So I am trying my best currently to really work on not making these mistakes again. Not to say that I never will make them again, but to learn from them if I do. So anyway, moving on, I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope that you found this video interesting and helpful. And if you have any feedback, if you have any further business orientated questions, as you know, I am always happy just to give you the content that you guys enjoy watching. So whether it's fashion, more yoga classes, business, lifestyle, vlogs, whatever it is, please do comment below. And if you haven't followed or subscribed already, I would really appreciate it if you did. And yeah, thank you again so much for watching.